아, 그러고 있네. 명은아, 꽃 떨어져 있고. 멀리서 엄마 아빠 사진 한 장 찍어줄래? 가까이서 찍지만 화장 안 하고 수영장 갔었는데. 여기서 찍어 사진 한 장. 자.
커피 농장에 커피 투어 왔습니다. 무료 체험인데요. 많은 사람들이 체험을 하기 위해서 농장에 이렇게 와 계십니다. 커피 투어 농장에서 체험하고 있습니다. 여기는 이제 무료 체험장입니다.
Oh my god, that sounds so nice. Look,
이거 혹시 하면은 이거랑 이거 되게 보여줘서 얘는 다른 게 없다. 카메라에 얘는 큰 것만 있네. 어떻게 해요?
요거.
세 개?
명은지도.
아니 얘는 홀딩밖에 없어. 단 게 없어. 그냥 원두가 없어. 이거 하나 마시고.
So ground, right?
Yeah, wow.
And you want a decaf.
Yeah.
Decaf.
카페인 맞죠?
Decaf.
Yeah, decaf.
145.50.
145.55.
Just insert this.
185 정도.
185달러?
Thank you. Just a quick sign. And do you need a receipt today?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get you a paper receipt.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Inside the seed is a pit that we call the green bean. When you cook it, it looks like that, and we call that roasted coffee. That's what you see in your kitchen. So there are four clear transitions between fruit and roasted bean, but technically there are 16 steps from here to here. And every single one of those steps we do right here on property. The only thing we don't do is decaf, and we send it to Burnaby for that. Everything else is done here. To legally call something coffee, it has to grow in a coffee belt. It's about 35 miles long, mile and a half wide, 500 to 3,200 foot elevation, but we are regulated by the state of Hawaii. And so by state grading laws, we have to comply with some quality standards. And if you grow junky, terrible coffee, even in the coffee belt, you still can't sell it as Kona. So if you can grow it in the belt and comply with quality, you can sell it as Kona coffee. But know that there's wide variation in that. So you wouldn't go down to Napa Valley and visit one, or upstate New York and visit one winery and say, I now understand all Napa wine, or I understand New York wine. You saw a sliver into a larger universe. So don't think about Kona coffee as a taste of coffee. Think about it as a Champagne or a Napa Valley or a Willamette Valley, a Tuscany, a Chianti. Uniqueness of origin by rainfall, mineral content, temperature shifts, produces a good environment for growing trees and exceptional fruit. Are you joining us?
Yes,
Come on in. Where are you from, dear?
California,
Which part?
Central Valley.
Gotcha. Welcome. We'll talk about almond farms later, okay? All right. Now, what I'm going to tell you is if you visited 10, 20, 30 farms in the Kona Coffee Belt, you're going to have 10, 20, 30 very different experiences, all under the heading 100% Kona Coffee. Does that make sense? Okay. So we are a farm of 180 acres, but we're also a coffee mill. That means we process coffee. Anybody want to guess how many coffee farms there are in the Kona Coffee Belt?
No idea.
50? 80? 900.
900.
But here's where it gets really crazy. Those farms sit on 4,000 acres of trees in the ground. Okay? So I'm come from California, and you know California has almond farms at 250,000 acres. Those are single farms, and there's multiples of them, right? Here, if you go to Nebraska and you tell someone like, yeah, I'm a 1 acre farmer, they're like, okay. Yeah. But here, that's the typical, I'm a 1 acre coffee farmer. And you're like, okay, let's go check out your place. And when you get there, half an acre is their house and a quarter acre is mango, banana, and citrus. And they have 150 trees on the corner of their lot. And that's your typical 1 acre Kona coffee farmer. So know this, 90% of all Kona coffee on the market comes from 1-3-5 acre generational family farms that pick fruit. That's all they do is they grow fruit, they pick it, they sell it to a mill, they're done. 90%, okay? There's 9 farms in Kona, exactly 9, over 100 acres. We're one of them, but that's the exception, not the rule. There's maybe 10 small scale backyard neighborhood processors, but in September of 2024, there's only 2 large coffee mills. We're one of them. There's another one down the road. I've forgotten their name because nobody cares about them. But those 2 operations will process about 2/3 of all the fruit in the belt each year. Okay? You guys with me so far?
Yeah.
Last but not least, if you had a 3 acre farm in Kona and you dreamed to sell it in a high-end cafe in Busan and sell it to the tourists for $26 a cup, you could come to us as a client and say, can you guys process our coffee but then give it back to us? And the answer is yes, we can. We work with just over 200 entities on the Big Island, assisting them, whether it's full service start to finish or partial, but helping them value add to their coffee. Does that make sense? You guys feel caught up? Yep. All right, come on this way. This is called an autograph tree. If you're feeling romantic, you can carve your initials into a leaf and come back next year, they'll still be there, okay?
이름 다 써놨네.
So what's this tree then? We call it the autograph tree. Hibiscus here, and banana there.
Banana.
Banana. Everybody come on the grass here, right? Get out in front of the truck there. All right. So local farmers, like you just saw, will drive their truck up to the scale there, and they'll unload burlap bags of fruit that they pick and then sell it to the mill. And remember, that's how 90% of Kona coffee comes to market. So in addition to having our own coffee that becomes our estate coffees, we're purchasing coffee from many small farms in the belt. As he pulls away, I want you to notice the bags that he's lifting up there. See those big burlap bags? Typically, you're going to have 100 pounds of fruit in there. And in those bags, we want to see 95% bright, shiny red like a cranberry. But,
right.
yeah, but these are hand-picked, and so you're usually successful about getting these guys. But no matter how careful you are, some of the underripe, overripe will come off. So there you have under, ripe, and over, right side by side, and we can only use the red guys. These ones would taste bad in a cup of coffee, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to separate them by color. But I want you to know that if you bring us a 100-pound bag, 95% that good, but we're going to buy that from you at regular price. And that's because we have an arch enemy. The arch enemy of coffee is a little beetle. It's called the coffee berry borer. And they'll burrow into the seed, hollow it out, and have up to 5 generations of offspring in a single season. So as one of the 2 big mills, when you say to a small farm, hey, You know that stuff that's stuck on the tree and fell on the ground that has no value to us? Bring it to us. We buy it from you 5% per load. Now, in their mind, revenue per acre goes up if they're meticulous about cleaning their farm. In our mind, when you take all the food and home away from the beetle, you got a better quality outcome over the years because less beetle. And so that's why we invest in that. And then we have a machine. It's called a color sorting station. And they're just getting ready to do the afternoon run, but they put all the fruit in that box. It goes up an elevator, down a ramp, and it hits a high-speed treadmill belt that launches to fruit over a gap. Now we want the red guys to jump the gap, but we don't want those guys to. So, sorry. I want you to notice, come this way a little bit. In the back of the machine, there's white squares with round circles on them. You guys can see those? Those are called spectrographic cameras, and they read color. And if they see the over-under trying to jump across the gap, compressed air from these tanks through a bank of jets go and knock it into the gap. So your ripe fruit goes to the other side of the building for processing, and your rejected fruit come out this auger tube and fill the bucket with yuckiness. And that's it. From there, now we're only processing high quality red fruit.
What do you do? Just burn that stuff?
That's going to be buried in the compost pile, and the nutrients will be returned to the ground.
You have a 900 of farms, and all they grow the same variety?
Nope. 25 different coffee varieties grown in this one coffee belt.
So when
Just
you-
on this farm, 11 varieties.
When you collect those, you based on the variety?
No information whatsoever.
Oh.
Can she come down, please? Please come down. Hello? Come down. Don't go up there. Okay? So what I want you to know is, if you buy our state coffee, we can tell you it's this tree, it's this elevation. When I sell you our classic Konas, I don't know, only it was in the belt, and we only buy coffee from registered farms in the belt. But I don't know tree variety, I don't know elevation, no information. It's all mixed together to make a classic 100% Kona. So think about it like wine. You have your estate wines that are personality driven, and you have your classic
But they have a
blended
variety
Merlots.
of different the grape, right? They know
Well,
just a
yes and no. So they
variety,
do have grape varieties, but they also have many blends of grape varieties as well. And so you have both.
Yeah, in the big category of champagne, right?
The big category, and you can get a Corbel and a Cristal from the same region in France, and it's all vision after it's taken off. And so, but guys, I'm going to take you down the hill. I want you to notice before we go that old building up there. That was built in 1922, and in Hawaii, it's actually called by its original Japanese name, which is Hoshidana. And that means drying deck in Japanese, and it was invented by Japanese immigrants, and it's a roof on train wheels on a track. So when it was sunny, you'd roll it open, and when it was rainy, you'd roll it closed. Now, if you look this way, we still have 4 Hoshidana. We still use them. But the difference is, in the old days, that was it. 12, 15 days in the sun. Today, you hear that low sound over there?
Yeah.
That's a dryer. We have a dryer, so now we start them on the deck, but we finish them in the dryers. Those dryers allow you to get much finer moisture control, so you get a better quality roast when you cook the bean. Come on this way.
그래서 90% 정도는 색깔이 이뻐가지고
음.
이제 정가를 하고 나머지는 이제 땅에 묻어주는 영양분을 들어가고
음.
색깔을 구분해주는 기계고 25% 정도는
Stand in the shade here for a moment.
여기서 이제 말린 기계가
Now, guys, on the other side of the building, there's a machine called a pulper, and it just has these spinning drums with little blades, and it nicks up the skin and presses it against a metal plate, and the seeds eject. So the skin ends up in the back of that trailer straight ahead, but the seeds fill those baths where Angel is standing next to. And if you smell kind of a weird sour apple vinegar fermenting note, that's fermenting coffee, because the seeds have to be fermented to release the fruit portion or the mucilage, okay? Now, guys, watch carefully, because I'm going to show you a miracle. Miracle? Yes. Come on in. Okay. I call this miracle giving birth to twins. Okay? And I need your help. Is that all right?
Sure.
What's your name?
Rob.
Rob, I'm Matt. So in a very calm and relaxing voice, I need you to say, Matt, push, breathe. You can do this. Is that all right?
Yep.
You have experience with this?
Sure.
All right, here we go. Do it.
Matt, push, breathe.
Baby one is grounding. There she
It's
is.
coming. Come on. Breathe in.
Wait.
Oh.
Now remember I told you there's twins? You guys saw the peaberry. It's a single round seed. That's very rare. So 3% of the time you're going to get one of those. 96% of the time though, let's do this again, okay? We don't get takeovers in real life, but here we go. Let's do this again. All right, well, one more time.
Right, Matt, push, push, breathe.
There's
breathe.
baby one, and don't stop. There's another one in there.
There it comes.
And 90
Identical twins.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, tea berry, regular coffee. Now touch it and feel it's kind of slimy and
Oh,
gooey.
that's what
And
they call pea berry.
newborns should feel that way. But what you're touching is called the gelatinous mucilage layer. It's the fruit of the coffee. It's very sweet to the taste, and coffee pickers will sometimes use it as a candy. But 5 or 6 minutes in, they have to spit it out because the inner green bean, the seed core, is undigestible. So should you swallow it, you'll be seeing it again in 12 to 24 hours. Okay. All right.
So when you fermented it, do you need a specific and like a yeast or something?
So there is a method called yeast inoculated ferment, but us and most places they use naturally forming yeast that will convert the sugars in there to a small amount of alcohol. They'll soak it for about 30 hours, and then what they do is they do a high-speed rinse. So they fill the bath, they wait an hour, then they drain it. Fill the bath, wait an hour, drain it. And every time they drain it, the force of the water pulling through those fermented mucilage cleans it away until you get that stuff. And that stuff is called washed coffee seed. Now I'm gonna put those there, but don't treat your kids like that, okay? Now, watch this. When they get up on the deck, this kind of look like peanuts and soybeans now. They're kind of, I'll get that guy, sorry. They're kind of dry and brittle, they're light, and we have to reduce the moisture to 10 to 12%, okay? Now, remember I told you in the old days, when they used typically the sun deck, it would take 12 to 15 days, and they could only use the sun, right? But today, we start them on the deck for about three days, and then we finish them in the dryers. Finish them in the dryers for a higher quality dry, and that connects with roasting. You know, in the old method, if you left them on the sun deck and you're raking them, and coffee has a hemispheric, flat side, round side, lean stack, you never get a perfect dry. And so when you go to cook it, all the different moisture ranges cook on different timelines. So by starting them on the deck, finishing them in the dryers, you get 10 to 12% every single time, and that gives you a better quality roast when all is said and done. Does that make sense? Good. Let's go check out the dryers. Okay. Before we go down the see that big mud slick right there? Just stay away from that. The closer you are to the building, the more sure-footed you will be, and you can actually use these things like handrails. You can just kind of go like this from one to another, and we'll get down here without losing. You make documentary? So you guys saw that one dryer was rotating slowly. It starts at 80 Fahrenheit and goes up to 95. That's designed to mimic outdoor daytime temperature without cooking the bean. When it's done, they release it into those big white bags. They rest it in a warehouse for about 2 months to let the moisture evenly disperse and let all the chemical processing conclude so that the flavors can settle. So this whole process is collectively called wet milling. Then you rest for 2 months, and then you go down to dry. We'll talk about dry milling coming up. But first, have you ever seen a baby pineapple?
Yes, a small.
Come this way, baby pineapple. Yeah, that's a 2-month-old pineapple. Yep.
2 months.
Now you know one pineapple makes one crown makes one pineapple once in its life forever. You guys saw baby pineapple? Yeah. Okay. And so when we harvest the pineapples about this size, we're going to replace the whole plants. And so just a fun thing. When you work on a farm, you have to be creative to stave off boredom. And so we name our pineapples like Pinelope Cruz and Chris Pine, and for the old timers, Bob Dole and things like that. But it's okay. Now, guys, peppercorn. 99% of what we do on this property is coffee, but we also grow vanilla, chocolate or cacao, and peppercorn. And guys, this is one of the most interesting, flavorful things you're ever going to eat. Take one. Chew it slowly. Peppercorn. It's a little bit spicy. Spicy, okay? Yeah. Peppercorn. To southern India. It was once so valuable you could pay your taxes in it. But I'm going to tell you a secret that most people don't know. You know how there's like black pepper, white pepper, yellow, orange, red?
Green.
It's the same vine.
Oh.
So if you pick it green and you dehydrate it, that will become black peppercorn. But just like a bell pepper, it'll go green, yellow, orange, red. And typically, if you harvest the red ones and boil them, the skin falls off. So you strain out the floaters and dry those. You have white peppercorn, but you can preserve chemically the yellow, orange, and red as well. And then in Southeast Asia, they pickle these in vinegar, salt, and spice. They're sold as pickled green peppercorn. So all of those come from the same vine from southern India. Okay, isn't that crazy? And then there's even one more. If you've ever heard of telecherry, it sounds like a whole different. It's just the biggest ones. They're separated by size, and the bigger ones become telecherry. So this is crazy, but this is going to be our next big thing. We want to be the largest pepper producer here. But come on this way. Now that you're all hopped up on peppercorn, let's go hug the coffee tree. 70-year-old mango tree. Fallen papaya. The big one is lychee, and then 40-foot avocado. Now, first things first, if you have a phone, let's take a picture of your group next to a coffee tree. Okay? Picture?
Yeah.
Yeah, come. Unless your wife doesn't know you're here. Never mind, okay, never mind. She's taking some time, so come this way. Stand right next to the tree there.
여기 사진 찍을래? 커피나무.
Yeah, red is right, exactly. Farm-wide blooms to May. That's known as a cone of snow. And then trees individually have flowerings as well. And coffee is a self-pollinator. So when the branches are lined with small white flowers and the wind blows through the tree, the branches will shake like this. And that motion shakes loose pollen to become a fruit. And that's why all the fruits are ripening on different time schedules. So when you look at the branch, there's all these different colors. If you've ever had to pick like the raspberries or blackberries or huckleberries, it's the same deal. You gotta go back again and again and again. So here, on a professional farm, we pick each tree only 6 times, separated by 2 weeks each. So it takes about 3 months to get all the fruit off the tree. And if you recall, most farms here are 1 to 5 acres, so they're on a single elevation. And most Kona coffee farmers pick coffee September, October, November, plus or minus a couple weeks, and they're done. This farm has an additional challenge because we sit on the slope of the mountain like this, and we start down there at 1,100 feet. We finish 2.5 miles above the highway at 3,000 feet. So we're like this. And we start picking here in July, but we don't finish picking up here till May. However, we have the same peak as everyone else. So here's July production, August, September, October, November, and then it starts to get less and less in the beginning of the year till May. And so all picked by human beings. We use the H-2A visa program. That's how migrant agricultural laborers come to the United States. Your typical worker can get 300 to 400 pounds of fruit off the tree in an 8-hour shift. My best day at home is like 70 pounds, and the big difference is I'm useless the next day. I'm sunburnt and backache and swollen fingers, like don't talk to me. They do 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, and they sing while they do it. And they get paid by how much they pick, so they're not messing around. They're out there at full force getting those red fruits off the tree.
Those are Mexicans.
In our case, 100% from Michoacan, Mexico. Yeah.
It's good.
But there's 50-something H2A qualified countries.
Where we are is hard. Every time we have a blueberry, every time the season comes,
Right.
everybody's so stressed out.
Oh yeah, it's stress. That 3 months is a very stressful time in the Kona coffee world, 100%. Well, guys, if you'll follow me down the hill, I want to show you the maternity ward of coffee. Come on this way. This is our nursery. Say that again. That's where the twins are.
No, being the cold.
Let's go stand in the shade right there, okay? It's really hot here, so let's talk in the shade. It's pleasant under here. If you remember, we have an enemy, which is the coffee berry borer. It's a little beetle that hollows out the seed, okay? Additionally, the state of Hawaii is the only coffee industry on the planet Earth that's regulated by the United States Department of Agriculture. What that means is chemical pesticides that are used on the beetle in other parts of the world are just not available for use. They're not on the approved list. So when the beetle entered in 2005-06, took a couple of years to understand what it was, but by 2011, just 5 years later, 70% of Kona coffee showed some type of damage, pinholes and chips and partial hollows. I think I remember reading in the 2011 season, everything in Kona was at lowest grade. And lowest grade just means smallest and most amount of defective beans. And we couldn't grow quality for about 2 years. The University of Hawaii has a tropical agricultural extension program. And they came up with a system I'm about to describe to you. The system requires you to grid your farm into blocks. So if you floated above the farm and looked down, you would see a checkerboard of 3 to 4 acre blocks, and 50% of them would look like those trees we're just taking pictures of, 12 feet high, loaded with coffee. But if you just can look down towards the ocean, those are also coffee trees, but 4.5 months ago, they were stumped across the base. And so they're in mid-grow back, but coffee doesn't form on year 1 shoots. It forms on 2, 3, and 4 shoots and stops on 5. So for a solid year, there's gonna be no fruit in that field, okay? So the beetle has nothing to eat and nowhere to live, and you're basically starving them out. Now they do try to come back in, but you're gonna coat your tree with an organic fungus called bacillus, and it coats the fruit, and then when beetles try to re-enter, and it touches their body, it grows into them, and it kills them. And it's non-toxic, they wash it off in the rain, has no other negative consequence. So using that 1 year on, 1 year off, you can keep your population about 2%. That's amazing. But if you're a numbers person, if you're a farmer, if you're a business guy, the question you're thinking is, but Matt, only half of your farm is making coffee. So you must be losing so much production. And the answer is not as much as you think, because the centerpiece of this program is how do you get the maximum fruit yield on your tree on the productive years? And there's a lot of things we do, but I want to share with you the big 3. 1, notice that the trees have the same height, branch length, they're all uniform. It has a well-researched tree profile to hold the most amount of coffee a tree can hold. 2, in our grandparents' generation, when you fertilized the field, you did it on a schedule. You said February 1st, March 2nd, April 3rd. Today, you do that, but you also do reactive fertilizing. So you take a leaf sample and a soil sample, you monitor rainfall, and you do all sorts of inputs from the field. Now they have tracking software programs that your farm manager inputs the data, and it says, you are zinc deficient in the corner of field A7, or you had too much rain from this day to this, so you need to do another application. So that aspect is getting better and better and better because right now we have to send our test results to a company in California. It's about a 30-day turnaround for results. We met a guy 2 months ago. He promises he's opening a laboratory by the airport. It's going to be operational by early December, and he guarantees 7-day test results. You can drop a sample on Monday, get it the next Monday, and by Tuesday you're changing the recipes. And it's almost like being able to talk to the tree. And what do you guys need? You need some magnesium, you need some boron, and the tree's like, yeah, so I need this, and it absolutely allows you to keep the fields as healthy as possible. The third one we do is grafting. Notice that there's actually 2 trees here, the brown part and the green part. Okay? The brown one on the bottom is called the root stock, and that's what's growing on the pots in the ground right there. They're grown for durability, largeness, high energy, resistant to bug and drought, but their coffee doesn't taste very good. So in trays, we grow the scions, that's the upper piece, to about 1.5 inches. Take them out of the tray, slice off the roots, dip in a little alcohol and gently put it in the V, tell with a plastic clip. And if you give that 4 to 8 weeks, they start to fuse into a single tree. Now a year later, you have this absolutely durable, strong, everything resistant roots in the ground feeding delicious coffee on top. And you guys know grafting is not new. It's ancient. It goes back to 300 BC. It's in every known agricultural industry. But now you can proudly say, oh, coffee is also a grafted crop. And that's what you do. So I want to give you the real number if you care. I told you we get about 25 pounds of fruit from the tree. That's not the number you would tell the bank or the insurance company. You would say it's a farm-wide 2-year averaged 12.5 pound fruit yield. That's across the farm. So the good news is, in the world of Arabica coffee farming, if you can get 7 to 14 pounds of fruit off a tree in a season, you're doing good. So even at 12.5, you're still on the high side of that. 98% of our coffee shows no damage whatsoever. So we're back to growing quality. And this is an important point, I don't want you to miss it, is you're in Hawaii. This island, these islands have a cultural context. They were inhabited by people who had no outside trading partners, so they had to self-sustain. So before sustainability became a buzzword, they had rules that you couldn't take this fish out during spawning season. You had to, because if you didn't do that, your grandkids didn't have any food. And so I'm asked almost every day, like, how come you guys don't just cut down all the bananas and fill the grass up there with just coffee, and just kill everything else? Well, for 5 or 6 years, your production might go up, but you're killing the land. And that's, for Hawaiian people, for the local culture, that's the foremost thing, is keep the land alive. And you do that through biodiversity, bringing in multiple pollinators, letting all the various nutrients fall on the ground and decompose, and that keeps the microbial layer very active, and that makes nutrient cycling go very fast. And just first, everything's healthy, and then you put your trees in that environment, not allow you to farm for the next 150 years without worrying about, oh God, well, the field doesn't make any coffee anymore. So although I told you chemical pesticides weren't on the table, it's a very compatible system with the cultural context in which it's grown. Does that make sense? Yes, let me put this back.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
These are exposed to the sun.
Once they settle, remember, we're only using the bottom of those guys. We're not using the top. So if they get sunburn or a little bit tough on top, that's okay. But we're gonna only use the roots of those guys. Yeah. And they do that once they get out there, they do require sun. They want that energy to go to building the strong roots. All right, guys, come on this way. Actually, while we're in the shade, let me just give you some information, then we'll go up the hill. Okay. That building in front of us, which we do not enter on this tour, is called the dry mill, and it's where all the quality control and precision of coffee processing happen. Are any of you engineers of any type? Engineer? No? Yes? What kind? Chemical. Excellent. Any other engineer? No? Okay. I ask because in modern day coffee processing, engineers are considered the heroes of quality. Now watch carefully. This bean, after resting for 2 months, goes into a rotating cylinder with little teeth on the inside, and it cleans an outer layer called parchment. That's like the paper on a garlic or a peanut. Look very carefully, there's another skin there, it's called silver skin, and when it's cleaned, I'll try to break it off for you, but you can see the green bean inside can polish to this guy. And that's what we're after, is polished green coffee. Okay? And all done, kids do this around the world by their fingers. That's why they love the engineers. The second machine manages debris. The light debris blows outside. The heavy debris is caught in bags. And then we size sort. We size sort for the same reason that Gordon Ramsay gets very upset if you cut your carrots in different sized chunks and put them in the same frying pan, because the small pieces cook faster than the big pieces. And that's the exact same with different sized coffee beans. So by state grading laws, we have 5 sizes and 1 shape of coffee. The shape is called the pea berry. Notice it's round rather than hemispheric. 3 to 4% of the time, one of the ovules won't form. And did you guys just see the birth of a pea berry moment? Well, they're round, and so they cook more uniformly. And in the modern day, they're separated and sold at a premium. Maybe 60 to 100 bucks a pound is typical for pea berry. But because the uniform cook, they have a very light, almost between coffee and tea flavor profile. And it is on the table today, so make sure you take a sip before you leave. This is pea berry. Little coffee, little tea between the two. And then we manage defects. In the world of farming, if you're growing apples, your beautiful ones sit on the supermarket shelf and they're sold at a premium. Where do the ugly ones go? Not in the garbage. They make applesauce.
Apple juice.
Yeah, the apple juice, apple sauce, and everybody's happy because the price point of the grade suits the end use, right? And in coffee, we have some defects that are not allowed. Moldy and stinky and sour and leaf rock stick. There's a hard 0 in our coffee, but a secondary defect like a funny shape or a pinhole or a little chip, you can still use them, but the amount you're allowed to use gets more and more as you go down grade. So at our top grade, which is called extra fancy, your defect rate is near 0. Okay. At our bottom grade, which is called prime, I know, extra fancy to prime, but it's 15% by weight straight across. And that's managed by density sorting, the light stuff away, and then optical sorting, which is basically scanning each bean against a database and puffing them into different categories. And so all that is done in the dry mill straight ahead. The compliance on that is enforced by the State Department of Agriculture. And they have to come and inspect the coffee and stamp it. And then in our case, 65% of production is sold wholesale. That means it's unroasted green bean in shipping containers. We send to Oakland, California. Our broker lives in El Cerrito, and from there he'll contract that coffee out to big, medium, and small roasters around the world. And then the other 35% goes up the hill to our roasting room, and we cook it for the gift shop and the website and the Amazon store. Holy cow, just for coffee, all that, right? Now guys, we're gonna avoid that puddle. We're gonna go up the hill though. We're gonna find a shady spot. Let's talk about roasting for about 2 minutes, and then I promise I'm done, okay? Sounds good? Come on this way.
So when you're shipping out your coffee,
Yeah, right now it's still 10, and so the laws just changed. It'll be implemented by 2027, so 2 more years, or maybe 3, but then it's going to be 51%. And then, right now, they don't have to tell you what the other 90% is.
Yeah,
But that's part of the new laws. They have to tell you not only 51% Kona, what's the other 49%. So it's changing. We've been battling this for years and years and years. But in our case, most of that coffee will be sold as 100% Kona. There are some people that blend with it, but when you're buying from a quality producer in Kona, you want to sell it as Kona because that's where your margin
So
is.
yours in the shop is 100%?
All 100% Kona. We don't do any blending at all. And the owners live down the hill.
How many employees?
We have about 50 full-time employees.
Oh.
And then during harvest season, another 45 or 50 workers.
Very labor intensive.
It is very labor intensive, no question about it. These are avocado trees, lychee tree there, and that's a South American monkey pod tree over there. Come in the shade here, guys. Let's finish up. This spot has a nice cross breeze that comes through, so it feels very pleasant. So, roasting coffee is a chefing art, and no two chefs come to it with the same sensibility. In the world of coffee roasting, you use two tools: time and temperature. Like making coffee, time and temperature. But we control the heat line. So let's say you say 13 to 18 minutes timeline. Above that, you have what's called a rate of rise. So I start at 220, I build to 300, I plateau, I come up, I come down. Whatever it is, each one of those individual roasting maps changes the way the coffee reveals its character. I do go to roasting competitions as an observer regularly, and the last one I was at, there were 13 competitors. It was in Honolulu. They got their coffee from a farm across the street, same field, same grade, same everything. And after all the judging was done, when we tasted it, there was not a single coffee on the table that tasted anything like the one before or after it. 13 individual cups, all from the exact same beans, same field, same grade, different roaster. The guy who won the contest, he has a cafe in Kona called White Nene. And I'm gonna tell you right now, when you came to his pot, you immediately knew it was better than anything else. He's like, oh my God, he's gonna win. He's amazing. And it was that quick just to recognize how good it was compared to everything else. So if you live in a place, and I think all you do, that have local roasters, I highly encourage you to go out there and talk to them. And what are you guys cooking? And what's your roast philosophy? Where do you get your beans from? It's not even the same product as buying off the supermarket shelf in terms of subtlety and nuance and freshness. And so once you make that relationship in your life, you'll be going back to that roaster again and again and again. And if you don't like that one, go to the next one. But it's just in terms of quality, taste, aroma, night and day. Okay? Now, how many of you are black coffee drinkers? 1, 2. Okay. If you like your coffee black, in Kona, our lighter roasts are a little bit tart, a little bit citrusy, okay? It takes a little time to get used to it, but once you do, it's a very exciting cup and lots of subtlety, flavors, sweetness. So if you go to the medium, private reserve, and peaberry, you're gonna find a really elegant black cup of coffee. But if you need to put a lot of stuff in your coffee, little Baileys and Jamesons and whipped cream, right? You're gonna want a darker roast. And so look on our table for the dark and the French, and those we think about as superior drink bases. You can add all sorts of stuff, you're still gonna taste coffee. By the way, that's the reason why big famous coffee house companies of the world like really darkly roasted coffee. It uniformizes all the regional flavors into a consistent profile, which is important for them as a corporate strategy. But more importantly, or equally importantly, if you came to my coffee house, I don't want you to buy a $3 black cup of coffee. I want you to buy a $7.89 mocha frappa unicorn thingy. And the milk, the syrups, the powders, they're all very cheap to produce and very profitable. And so you need that really rich dark roast underneath all that stuff to still taste coffee. And it's not a mistake, it's not burnt, it's a well thought out corporate strategy for appropriate to use, right? Now I take you back to the middle. We call it full city roast. It's technically a medium dark roast. And I want you to think about that like the golden brown piece of toast. If you wanted to know what rye bread was, I would give you the bread before I cooked it. That's when the rye is most intense. That's like our light roast, most of the uniqueness of the ground. If you cook it to char on both sides, you don't taste rye, you taste burnt sugar, carbon, and smoke, and that's what happened to the bread in the cooking process. But if you come back to the middle, you have just enough origin to still be rye, and enough cook to be toast. Crunchiness, caramelized sugar, colorization. And that's the coffee you're gonna serve at the wedding, you're gonna give it to the pet sitter, you're gonna, you know what I mean, bring it to the conference, and it has that widest appeal where people, oh yeah, that's a nice, smooth, sweet, balanced cup of coffee. So, A, the best coffee is the one you like. Yes, preference is important. But B, depending on morning coffee, afternoon coffee, high caffeine, low caffeine, drink it black, put a lot of stuff in, just myself, feeding a large group of people, there's an appropriateness to the roast level to each situation. Does that make sense?
What makes it decaffeinated?
Well, in I was telling they're nearby Burnaby, and we send it to Burnaby, Canada. We use a process called Swiss water. It's a patented method, and that's why we have to go to Burnaby. But they steam open the green bean before it's cooked. They soak it in a particular temperature of water, which dissolves the most amount of caffeine and the least amount of flavor molecules. They run that through filters. It takes out 99% of the caffeine. They reintroduce the green beans to the 1% extract, so whatever strangling flavors are still there goes back home, they say. They dry it, send it back to us, and we roast it on site. And so that's, if you do need to do decaf, that's the one I say you ask for by name. It's known to be the most flavorful, the least amount of intrusion to the bean.
And you have it here.
We do sell it, yeah.
I have two questions.
Sure.
One, the coffee you have the nutty flavor. Do you put the nuts there, or what is this?
I'm a little sad you asked me the question, but in the United
Before you answer the second question,
Okay.
so that we can answer the
Sure.
Is your coffee Arabica type?
Yes. So all the 11 varieties on the property are Arabica coffees. Arabica has several hundred varieties. So if you see that coffee up there that says macadamia or chocolate macadamia, people say, do you like put macadamia nuts and chocolate in the roaster and cook it? No, that would be a disaster, okay? I'm going to break your heart, but in your guys' neck of the woods in a little place called New Jersey, there's the Flavor Dynamics factory. Flavor Dynamics creates a product called propylene glycol syrup, and they have all sorts of proprietary blends of essential oils that create aromas. Now, propylene glycol in this case is an industrial binding agent, so anything it touches, it sticks it on there. So you'll find it in popcorn and vape pens and candies and everything, pretty much everything. But yes, flavored coffee is made that way. There's no mac nuts, there's no chocolate involved in the process. And they have 200 plus flavors in their catalog, including spicy taco. Who wants to drink spicy taco coffee? I have no idea, but that's all artificially flavored. And I do want to say though that if you go back to the history of coffee, from the very beginning, there's always been flavored coffee, just more natural, brown spice and fat and milk and, chocolate and other things. But if you're buying flavored coffee from a corporate entity, it's going to be made in that way. Yeah.
I have another question.
Sure.
Regarding the French rice, do you guys really burn it, or what is that?
Not burn it. It's cooked to just before second crack, and your goal there is to release the oils from the bean. So, do you not like French roast?
Oh, that's too dark.
Yeah, it's very dark, but believe it or not, there are many people in the world, that's their go-to coffee. And they say, that's so rich, it's like a warm winter hug. And then additionally, if you're adding a lot of things to your coffee, that doesn't taste like that anymore. As it binds with the fats and other things, it mellows out the cup, but you still get the coffee to come through. So it really is going to be your... When I first started working here, I drank Costco French roast for probably 7 or 8 years. And they kept telling me, Matt, you have to drink the light roast. And every time I said, it's sour. And they said, no, it's not sour. It has a hint of citrus. But you'd have to, this is what I did. I had to force myself to drink the light roast every day for about 1 month. And at the end of that, oh wow, I can really start to get the flavor, I can really start to get the subtlety, I can see the balance of acidic and sweet, but there's a learning curve if you're not used to that light roast. So yeah, there's a place and appropriateness for French roast as well as, there's actually one darker than French, it's called Italian roast. And it's right before the bean breaks apart by its carbonization, but some people love it. It's baker's chocolate. Any other questions, guys? Awesome. Now, I don't want you to judge me, so I have to tell you this, okay? I wasn't always like this. Just 6 years ago, I could go to 7-Eleven and get a cup of black coffee, and I didn't talk about anything. It was hot, it had caffeine, I was happy. Now, I sit at cafes and I sip coffee, and I say, oh, I'm getting apricot with lemon pepper. People back away from me slowly. And I had to go to Atlanta in May for my daughter's graduation, and I travel now with a little coffee suitcase. Now I made this myself, but it has foam cutouts for my hand grinder and my scale and my French press and my goose. And TSA stops me every single time. What's in the case, boy? And I'm like, it's my coffee stuff. And you feel pretentious and ridiculous and horrible, but I'm not going to go to the Verbo and drink a bad cup of coffee just because I'm lazy. And so after being here for 6 years, my whole brain has been rewired to like, I must get this high quality crafted cup of coffee. But if that sounds horrible to you,
No.
just do what you want. But
No.
if you want to go down that rabbit hole, the step one, really the biggest thing you can do is learn to make your coffee well. If you get on YouTube and start asking, how do you make good coffee? And what's the weight ratio of grounds to water? What's the temperature? And I kid you not, in 2 months, you will send me love letters saying, dear Matt, I never realized my coffee could taste so good, because it's not that much better. It's that much better every cup for the rest of your life. And you'll find you'll start drinking a little bit less because it's so satisfying. And you're starting to order these beautiful coffees from around the world. You're like, wow, I'm paying 60 cents a cup for some of the best dang coffee on the planet. And just down the road, people are paying $7.50 for a French roast with a lot of stuff in it. And it really transforms the way you think about it. But yeah, I often feel absolutely ridiculous, when I talk about coffee and people just, their eyes glaze over. This is a single origin geisha from the high elevation, and they're like, do you have any milk and sugar?
I think it's the coffee talking too.
I want to ask you,
Sure.
what's the best?
Coffee awake.
이걸 만든다면 커피 이제 마시는 거. 그거 유튜브 보면서 하면 이제
Now guys, when you're done, you can put your umbrella in the bucket there. There's a restroom on both sides of the building, and don't forget to try that pea berry we talked about so you can understand the delicate coffee tea combo. Okay? Excuse me. Remember those days of tea? Yes. Day one, everybody wears them now. Those are the things I've seen.
카올라나 마누. 하이웨이를 지나다가 화장실에 들렸습니다. 카올라나 마누.
아빠
응?
보냈거든요. 67,000.
가방 다시.
하와이 빅 아일랜드에 여기가 힐로에 있는 공항입니다. 힐로 레기스 크레인. 하와이 빅 아일랜드에서 5시에 출발해서 호놀룰루 국제공항에 지금 도착했습니다. 1시간이 채 안 걸렸습니다. 수화물을 찾으러 가는 중입니다.
오늘 금요일이니까
네.
이 친구들이 뭐 술이나 뭐 먹으러 와이키키 나간다고.
아.
일하러 가는 사람들도 있지만
놀러
와이키키 놀러 가는
네.
그렇죠. 그러니까 그쪽이 한국으로 따면 서울, 네, 서울로.
지금 미국 대선에 선거운동하고 있는 것 같습니다. 트럼프. 트럼프. 왼쪽 뭐야? 아.
Abang Ayala. 소리 나는데 꺾어서 무슨 소리 나는데 우리가 건물 때문에 무슨 거 같아. 맛있게 찍어. 자, 내가 여기서 찍어줄게. 동영상 어떻게?
아, 이것만. 자, 소리는 소리 안 들은 거야. 송어리가 즐긴 거야.
야, 다 썰어놓지 않아. 한 입.
한 입씩 드세요, 아빠.
그거가.
맛있어요.
드셔.
아사히랑 맹고.
예뻐.
Do you see my hair?
준비를 하는데.
있다. 할레콜라이 5성급 호텔입니다. 할레콜라이 오키드 식당에서 밥만 먹고 갑니다. 할레콜라니 호텔. 할레콜라니 호텔. 이제 정상이 됐어. 아까 죽겠더라요. 홀레콜라니 호텔입니다. 홀레콜라니 5성급 호텔입니다. 쇼핑센터.
여기 이거네.
저기 문머리야. 오타켓.
어디요?
타켓.
그냥 가게 이름 같은데. 오는데 모르겠네요.
사자들 들리는 거니까
예.
샵 사오면
가상 뭐 AR, VR 그런 건가 보다.
타임라인이
머리에 비둘기 앉아있네.
더 높은 거 말고 이 앞에 것만.
코리안 푸드도 있네. 코리안 푸드. 코리안 푸드. 코리안 푸드. 코리안에요. 한국 모포들의 모습 코리안에요.